Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 8 SHTF guns. Now, before we get this video started, I just wanted to let you guys know that we do have a Firearm Freedom merchandise store. Anything you purchase from that merchandise store greatly supports what we do here on Firearm Freedom. So if you wanted to check out some really awesome merchandise like this Firearm Freedom shirt that I have on right now, hit that first link down in the description. While you're down there, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video and want to see other videos that we are putting out weekly here on Firearm Freedom. Now, before we get into this first firearm on our list, I just want to mention a couple of things. When we are talking SHTF guns, there are many guns and many other guns that I may have wanted to include on this list. But due to recent events of kind of rushing everything together and really figuring out exactly what I would absolutely use, one of the main things that I looked at was reliability. I did not want to have a single malfunction of any type with any of the firearms that I chose. Secondly, I wanted to have enough magazines for each one of these firearms. So some I would have rather switched out for a different gun in the collection, but with that being said, I just simply did not have enough time or funds available to purchase enough magazines, and that definitely played a role. And one more final point, this list is in no way by best to worst. I am randomly picking the 1 through 8 options with whatever is closest to me here in the filming studio. But this first option is going to be the Yugoslavian M92 PAP AK pistol. Now, you guys have seen this AK pistol on the channel quite some time ago, and it consistently stays at the top of the list for one of my favorite AK pistols on the market. It consistently is very, very reliable, and then on top of that, what I really like about the M92 is that there is a wide variety of magazines that will fit in this guy. This is not specific to all M92s, but it is specific to my example that I have here. I have many different AK magazines ranging from old crappy Wasser magazines with a little bit of rust on them to painted Korean mags to Bulgarian Circle 10 mags, Bakelite mags, and Magpul magazines. And I like the ability that this gun really was able to lock into place every single magazine that I put in it without any sort of filing or anything like that. I think having a compact AK is definitely handy in an SHTF situation. I have made slight modifications to this. You guys remember that the last time on the Firearm Freedom channel, I did have the KAK blade on the end. I have since switched it to the SBA3 brace. This brace is pretty phenomenal, and it allows me to really stabilize this pistol perfectly. I still have kept on the Bulgarian style 4-chamber brake up at the top. This does a really nice job of directing that concussive blast forward rather than off to the sides, and really making it a little bit of a pain in the butt to shoot comfortably. One other upgrade that I have made to this gun is the single point sling that's on the end here. Now, this single point sling is nothing special. This is actually what came with my PTR 9CT, and it was what I had lying around. You guys know, if you've seen any other videos that feature single point slings on my channel, I'm not a huge fan of them. I really don't like them for the fact that really they're just good for standing stagnant at a range and not really moving. The moment you start moving with the gun, the single point sling really is a no-go, but it allows me to have something on this gun. But this is the first gun in this list of 8. Again, it is the Yugo M92 PAP imported by Century. I'll post a card up in the right-hand corner right now of the first impressions video that I have of this gun if you would like to see it more in depth. It is a much, much earlier video on the channel, so quality may not be as good as videos now. Number 2 on the list is the tried and true Mossberg 500. Guys, I don't think this shotgun has actually ever made its way on my channel. I took a couple of very, very small videos of it way back in the day that I might throw up here. This was long before I ever had the Firearm Freedom channel up and running. I've made a couple of upgrades to this shotgun. So fun fact, this was actually the first shotgun that I ever purchased. It was back when I was 18. I still lived up in New York, and this had a 28-inch field barrel on it, and I thought this shotgun was the coolest thing in the world. And it really still is to me. This has a little bit of soul for me in the collection just because it's been with me for quite some time now. I have made some upgrades. Obviously, it no longer has the 28-inch field barrel on it. I did put on a 20-inch security barrel with the 7-shot mag tube, and it just looks phenomenal in my opinion. Now, I left the wood furniture on it because I just loved the cool look that the Galco leather side saddle has here and the wood furniture. It was more so just kind of a cool collector's gun that I didn't really want to put in any sort of a security use. Not that it couldn't be put in a security use. It has quickly gone into that hard use category with this video, obviously making it an SHTF gun. I have never had a single malfunction of any type with this Mossberg 500. I will be doing a video later on with this shotgun on the channel. I really want to get this guy just more time here on camera for you guys because I think it's just an awesome shotgun overall, and the modifications that I made were super easy to do, and it just makes it really classic and really solid. And for the third firearm on this list, we are breaking out the awesome Atlantic Firearms Polish Tantal. This 545 AK variant is one of my favorite AKs in the collection. This is actually one of the smoothest shooting AKs that I have. I had to look through everything in my collection, and the Polish Tantal was one of those, in realizing that I just had a ton of 545 magazines randomly, and I also had a ton of 545x39 ammunition. I can just really get rounds on target easily with this rifle. If you want to check out the full video for this rifle, I have a couple different ones on the channel. I'll throw the most recent one in the card up in the right-hand corner of the screen right now. It is one of the many awesome rifles that come from Atlantic Firearms. There's a couple others on this list that are from Atlantic Firearms as well, and again, I've never had an issue. I think 545 is a pretty nasty caliber and one that is definitely useful in an SHTF situation. Number 4 on this list is somewhat of an oddball that I'm sure many of you did not see coming. The PTR 91. This PTR 91 in particular is the GI model, which is why it has this pretty awesome OD green furniture. Now, you guys know I have had issues with my PTR 9CT, or an MP5 clone from PTR. I have not had any of those issues with my PTR 91. It has consistently been ultimately reliable. I have not had a single malfunction of any type with brass or steel case ammunition, and this gun runs like a tank. I definitely had a hard time with this because I really wanted to have my M1A in a DMR setup for an SHTF gun, but that would have been one of those firearms that I just simply did not have enough time to get multiple magazines, or at least enough magazines that I would feel comfortable with in an SHTF situation. The PTR 91, on the other hand, I had a ton of magazines because these surplus aluminum HK magazines for the G3 are very plentiful still, and they're extremely inexpensive. And then on top of that, this rifle is pretty phenomenal with just iron sights. You guys have to remember that a lot of these rifles have been used, not these rifles themselves, but variants of them in combat for many years with really nothing on them. No optics, just iron sights, and people got along just fine. I'm by no means saying that these guns are the best with no attachments whatsoever, but with that being said, I think they can definitely still get the job done in an SHTF situation, and I think reliability is a little bit more key. If you want to see videos of this rifle in particular, again, click that card up in the right-hand corner. This rifle has been on the channel a couple of times, and it is most definitely due for another video. So hopefully this will come back on the channel relatively soon. Number 5 on the list is something that is tried and true in the Firearm Freedom collection, the CZ Scorpion. I have had this gun in a defensive role for some time here in the Firearm Freedom compound, but with that being said, I've never really done a video talking about it for an SHTF situation. I think there's a lot of merit to a little quiet 9mm PDW type firearm in an SHTF situation. I've made some modifications to this Scorpion more recently. That is the Spark 2 red dot. This has kind of jumped on and off of the Scorpion for a couple of months now, and I've just finally kept it on. By no means the best optic out there. There are many other optics that have better battery life, but this one is just one that really made its way on here due to lack of time and funds. Secondly, I've thrown on the Magpul offset light mount. Now this one's pretty interesting. It actually attaches via Picatinny rail on the side of the gun, and you can put things like this Streamlight TLR7 on here, so any light that goes onto a standard Picatinny rail will fit this mount just fine, or you can use standard handheld lights if you'd like to go that route as well. This is a pretty phenomenal setup, and honestly, I really like the fact that the TLR7 is slightly pressed back a bit from this Picatinny railed shelf, simply because it's going to protect the bulb a little bit more from carbon and different things like that if I'm running the gun without the can on it. Speaking about the can on the end of this is a Dead Air Ghost 45. I have a couple of videos of this on the channel as well. It runs great. I do have the Silencer Co. suppressor cover on here. This suppressor cover does not work too well for rifle suppressors, but on the pistol suppressor, it works just fine. From that, I don't really have any other attachments other than this Magpul 2-point MS3 sling. It's been on my channel many times. You guys know it is super reliable. I've yet to have a single malfunction. This gun runs suppressed, unsuppressed, runs like a tank, and continues to be one of my favorite PCCs. And the sixth firearm on the list here is the Arsenal 107. This is the first Arsenal that has ever came in the Firearm Freedom collection, and some of you may be confused from this if you follow the Instagram channel for Firearm Freedom, because many times I talked about how the Arsenal 106, or the 5.56 variant of this rifle here, would be my go-to SHTF rifle. Well, again, due to time and funds, I just did not have the ability to get a bunch of magazines for the 106, whereas the 107 is just fine in the magazine department and is still a super reliable AK, kind of the tried and true option in my opinion for what is available on the US market today. It's been quite some time since this rifle has made its way on the channel, but honestly, it still stays upwards of one of my favorite AKs out there. It's super smooth shooting for a 7.62x39 and really doesn't need many upgrades to just make it a phenomenal SHTF rifle. Not too much to talk about here. It is just a standard AKM variant, and it is super reliable. I've never had a hiccup of any type. The seventh rifle on this list pains me just a little bit. Now, as I was going through the safe, kind of looking at what would be practical and throwing cool out the door and just looking at practical, I just could not pass up the Retro SBR. Now, this pains me simply because this SBR was one of my favorite rifles in the collection just because of that cool kind of pseudo Colt Commando setup with the old school retro stock, no optic, carry handle sight, and it just was awesome, but it just was not as practical as it could have been in the setup that it was, so I had to scavenge some parts. I do have the Magpul ACS stock on the back. This is a great stock. I think it works out extremely well on this SBR. I do have a Vortex Strikefire 2 optic up at the top. Not my preferred setup, but the most high-end optics are currently sitting on some home defense rifles, so with that being said, it just kind of has to do. The battery life is okay. Not the best, not the worst. My only gripe really with this optic and why it's mainly been on a 22 is just simply for the battery life and then the battery that it takes. It's not as much of a readily available battery. So with that being said, not the end of the world. Moving forward here, I have my Silencer Co. Omega on the end. Another big role that played into the upper that was on the Retro SBR was the fact that I had on a Silencer Co. ASR muzzle brake. I didn't really want to go about breaking off the rock set on a couple different options. It's not too terribly difficult, but if I had an upper with the ASR mount already on it, I figured it didn't make much sense leaving it in the safe and not putting it in an SHTF roll. I've upgraded the trigger to just a standard BCM nickel boron trigger. This trigger is pretty phenomenal and I've never had an issue with it. I've also threw on a BCM gunfighter charging handle and a Magpul pistol grip. I've left on the Troy GAU sling. This sling works out great. It's not super fancy, but honestly, I have absolutely no issues. And to be completely honest with you guys, I actually kind of love this new setup of the SBR. I think it has kind of a mixture of old school and new school, and I think it's a pretty awesome setup. This is a great rifle. I've never had a hiccup with it. It runs great suppressed, and overall, it had to make the SHTF lineup. And last, but most definitely not least, number 8 on this list is the gorgeous, battle-worn Atlantic Firearms Romanian RPK. Guys, There's not much to say other than why not have an RPK variant in an SHTF situation. It works extremely well with the bipod on the end, the heavier barrel. You can really lay down some rounds with this guy without having to worry about anything getting overheated. I love the clubfoot stock in the back. One of the smoothest actions out of any AK that I've ever felt, and that is absolutely not an understatement. Atlantic Firearms goes in and polishes this internally. I talk about that in the video that I've had on this rifle on the channel. Prices on these guns continue to rise, and they are very tough to find nowadays on Atlantic Firearms. They rarely get them in, but when they do, they go out extremely fast. But again, not really too much to say about this rifle. It's just a tank, and I absolutely had to bring it out as the number 8 on this SHTF Firearms list. And that pretty much wraps up this list of SHTF guns. Now, I know some of you guys might be kind of confused at what the difference is of having standard guns in the safe and this new lineup of SHTF guns. What I mean by having SHTF guns is that these are loaded up, ready to go in a more quickly accessible location that is not all tied up, unloaded, magazines out in another location where I keep a lot of the standard firearms. But this is not a staged video of any type. All of these guns are absolutely in that condition, in a ready-to-go situation in my home currently. So these are all guns that I absolutely would trust my life to. We're gonna be doing a ton more videos like this in the future, so I hope you enjoyed. If you have any other questions, throw them down below in the comment section, and you guys know I absolutely will get back to you. Check out the description for the links to the Firearm Freedom Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account. We do daily posts on all 3 of those that you guys are not gonna wanna miss. As always, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more great content to come soon.